Welcome back to Inclusive Design 24, 2019, brought to you in partnership with our gold supporters, Barclays Access and Intopia, and with thanks to our silver supporters, Adobe and SiteImprove. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Inclusive Design 24 on YouTube by visiting youtube.com/inclusivedesign24 and hitting that subscribe button. You can follow ID24Conf on Twitter, and if you have questions for the presenters, tweet them using the ID24 hashtag, and we'll ask them at the end of the session. A reminder that ID24 is a respectful community with a code of conduct that's available on our website, linked from the footer. That's inclusivedesign24.org.
And on that note, reminder also that ID24 is a global event with a global community, and that means all of you. So please do send us a tweet and let us know where you're watching or listening from. And we need to give a shout out on that note to some very diverse audiences. Hello to Tokyo and also to Juneau in Alaska in America. So glad you're all watching. Our next talk now is by Anusha Reddy Tirala, and they're going to be talking about infinite scrolling and infinite problems. Anusha, over to you.
Hello. Hello, this is Anusha. Thank you for the opportunity, ID24. I'm going to talk about infinite scrolling and infinite problems. Prior to that, I would like to say this is a research content where I have mostly referred to the digital A11Y by Raghavendra Satish Perry and the posts by Adania Rosalie. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And by WebAx. So coming to infinite scrolling and infinite problems. What is an infinite scrolling? As the name suggests, it's a infinitely scrolling. Infinite scrolling is a web design technique that loads content continuously as well as the user scrolls down the page, eliminating the need for the pagination. The success of the infinite scrolling on social medias such as Twitter have made this technique popular, but does not mean you should do it. This is what stated from the source. Infinite scrolling is not for every website. So if you look at this GIF, it was taken from the Adana Rose's post, where you can see clearly that when you scroll down, the results will be loaded and loaded and loaded infinitely. You won't be able to see the end of the results. Okay, so what is the problem? If there are infinite scrollings, if there are infinite things, and how do you reach all the elements of the infinite scrolling? 1, 2, is there any footer at the bottom of the page? Is that available? Let's see who it affected. Visually impaired people, keyboard only users, people with cognitive disabilities. So how it actually causes problem? As you can see in the previous picture, in the previous GIF, there is a footer, but would you be able to reach that footer? I think that's a no. And there is so much of the content to navigate. There is no end to it. While I'm navigating using screen reader and a keyboard only user, where I'm in this feed section, it's going a 10th post, 11th post, then I'll go to infinite unless there is an end to it. And I'm on 30th post. How do I reach this particular result again? Can I go back from here? And what happens when we navigate back to the previous result? Can I come back again? It's too much of content, too much of it doesn't provide a clarity. It doesn't give you an instant view of how the feeds are organized and how many feeds are there in the feed section. It's an infinite list where screen readers would fed up at one point of time and would not able to understand what exactly is going on in this feed section. So what do we have remedies? We have ARIA. And as ARIA says, ARIA will only provide you for the screen reader users. It would not be providing you keyboard functionality. So whenever you provide ARIA, we have to make sure that we have to provide the keyboard functionality too. The role equal to feed was added in ARIA 1.1 to provide a mechanism for handling infinite scrolling regions with dynamic feed environments. A feed enables user of assistive technologies that have document browse mode, such as screen readers, to use the browse mode, reading cursor to both read and scroll through a stream of rich content that may contain scrolling infinitely by loading more content as the user reads. In a feed, assistive technology provides a web application with signals of user reading cursor movement by moving user agent focus, enabling the application to both add new content and visually position content as the user browses the page. For here, when the role equal to feed is used, first we have to provide role equal to feed for the entire feed region. Then each feed is provided with the role equal to article. Once each feed is provided with the role equal to article, then again we have to provide programmatic navigation for each element unless they are links. And in these feeds you might have in these feeds you might have images, active links, and so on. So all these elements need to have a tabbable navigation, and at the end of the element they need to have a button end of the element which end of the feed list. They need to have a button where you can load more elements. Sorry, there was a bit confusion. So where am I? Yeah. So when we provide the feed, it need to have specific ARIA roles, their respective roles and properties, and user should be providing programmatic focus too. The role equal to feed container acts much like a named region or landmark, though it must only include first level child roles with role equal to article. The article role may of course include any number of roles and active elements. So as I said earlier, the entire section need to be provided with role equal to feed, and each feed should be provided with the role equal to article and respective roles and properties, and also programmatic focus need to be provided. So what happens when these are provided? What happens is when this particular feed is provided, when the screen reader is on the feed region, it would read feed region to the screen readers, and while navigating to article, it would read so and so article for the screen reader users. That's a plus. But what this role cannot do, again, can you reach a footer? No, because it's the same thing. What is happening earlier was not accessible for the screen reader users and keyboard users, but now it is little accessible to screen reader users because they are able to understand what exactly they are in the feed, where exactly they are in the feed, and what exactly they are seeing. But still, whatever the content below under the feed section, the footer section, generally footer section would be available under beneath the feed section. So whether this footer section is possible to reach, no, because it's an infinite scroll. So how long you'll scroll to reach that footer section? Even if you press Control End, you will reach the focus to the focus footer, and when you press up arrow, you won't be able to go into the feed section again. So that's a mishap again. So second, that the first point which we cannot achieve even by providing ARIA role equal to field. Second, focus is lost when navigating back or previous result. As I said, when you navigate to the back, pressing back, or if you, let's say you already scrolled to the 50th element in this feed section. So when you navigate to the back, it's an infinite scroll. So you never know when you will reach the back. Or let's say there was a difficulty, and since it is infinite scroll, a dynamic system, the JavaScript broke, lost, everything is lost. And third point, difficulty locating content. Exactly, I don't know where am I. So how would I know where am I if I'm not able to identify where am I would not be able to navigate in the page. I would not be able to move back in the page. I would not be able to bookmark a particular element. I would not be able to activate this particular element. I would not be able to come back to this particular element. So that's a big mishap. And it's really hard to use because you have to press down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, or tap, 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 tap to reach the infinite feed of your scroll. So what is the best approach? After my studying, after my seeing all these things, I know the user actually want to avoid pagination, but avoiding pagination is a big mistake or a big problem for the screen reader users or any user with the disability, because it would create a confusion, and it would create it would create a confusion. It would not provide an opportunity to navigate between the elements. It's a big mess. So providing a pagination to the infinite list is the best solution I've seen through the research. While infinite scroll can be made accessible for people with screen readers using ARIA roles and properties, it's not great user experience for other users. But adding pagination make it accessible for every user. So, and as I said, this is not my own. I have referred so many articles, and it's the sum of these particular articles. I've been accessibility field only for 3 years. So this is what I accumulated. And thank you so much for everyone who provided on the website. That was a great content I could come across and create this PPT. Thank you so much, Raghava, Ardania Rosale, and Webax. These are 3 things I have taken most out of it. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you, Anusha. We are gathering some questions, but as we're doing that, I have one as I'm looking what you're presenting, and I'm seeing some of the content that's in there, your samples, and thinking about how users might need to jump around to different areas of the page. How do you see landmarks benefiting primarily screen reader users in these cases?
when we provided role equal to feed, you can skip to the landmarks, but you can't navigate entire feed region. If you want to skip it, that's a different issue. But if you want to navigate in the region itself,
Mhm.
then it doesn't it doesn't do a good for our purpose, right?
Okay. I would tend to agree. It probably could be a little bit tricky. Just a little bit. So then that also makes me wonder, we see a lot of infinite scroll in the context of something like a Twitter feed or a Facebook news feed, or is it Twitter
Mhm.
timeline and Facebook news feed? And there are a lot of users who are very comfortable with the notion of being able to scroll through that content. What do you think about the value of infinite scroll in the context of an ever updating feed like a social media feed?
I'm sorry, can you come again?
So right now, if I go to Twitter, I
Mhm.
expect that tweets will continue to appear as I scroll down. And in some cases, depending on settings, tweets might continue to appear at the top. Do you think that there's a valid use case there for feeds, or do you think that that's sort of pushing the limits of where a feed could be useful?
I would say that it would be useful if it's only in the particular container so that I could skip whenever I want it. That's a valid use case, but still, it's not accessible for all, right?
Right. I would tend to agree with that, of course. I have my own opinions about feeds,
Okay.
which I am never shy about sharing. I'll give me a moment to scan to see if we've got any other questions coming in.
I'm going to sneak in a quick question while you're doing that, Adrian, if that's
Sure.
okay. Anusha, thanks for that talk. Lots of useful information in there. I'm curious because I think it's maybe of interest to people who are thinking about accessibility for the first time who are listening. What got you interested in it, and perhaps more to the point, why a career in it as opposed to just a hobby?
Oh, okay. This is my first job actually in accessibility itself. I started my career as an accessibility consultant, where I've started as actually a visual assistant, which actually promotes me to do more work because, yeah, I mean, how people uses their computer without anyone's help, especially visually impaired. There was a person, Raghava Satish, actually, who was at the time of my interview. He was actually kind of working, but I couldn't recognize he was working because he was on his laptop and he was navigating through something and it's reading something out loud. And I have no idea he is visually impaired. So, without any delay, I said, this work looks like so cool. I mean, like you are enjoying it. Then, then, then my HR take me out, and she was like, "Don't comment." And she explained everything, and I was like, "Really, man, that's really cool. You are able to go through the pages, and you are able to understand it." And we were at that some point of time. Sometimes, so, I mean, like I've seen my sister, cousin who actually had little bit of motor disability where they couldn't use it. Even my dad, he's actually quadriplegic now because of cervical spondylitis. When operation didn't go through it properly, he became quadriplegic, and he's recovering a little by little. But he's also looking into some to interactive to the computers. I mean, like if computer is completely accessible, navigate navigate and he could reach the content whenever he wants, right? Because my mom won't be available all the time, or I won't be available on the time. So when I was seeing all these things, I was like, we will be at at that point of time. At some point of time, we have to be accessible. We have to inclusion, so that we could include everyone. I would basically say that it is for me only, because at some point of time I would not be able to see the colors itself properly. I'm not sure whether my PPT is good contrast or not, but I find that yellow with the blue is good contrast. So I go with that.
Right, that makes sense. And so
Yeah.
can you recommend what were the blogs, the sources of information that you found really useful as you started out your career in accessibility?
I've started my career in DQ, so
Uh-huh.
they themselves have a vast. At some point of time, I felt like sleepy, because they had like so much of stuff, very vast, and the different posts. I would say Webax, Digital A11Y, and Adania Rosley. I find his posts really good. And accessibility O's, ID24. Actually, for the ID24, I've referred so many of videos. I've never expected that I would be selected in this one. So,
Yeah. No, that's really good. Adrian, did you have any joy?
I was kind of curious to something. Anusha, I saw that you were looking, I think it was the Pew Research site that you had those images from. And there was a period where they moved away from the infinite scroll, and the developer modified it, partly based on feedback from some articles. The developer modified it so that instead of it scrolling forever and ever and ever, it would scroll for about 3 screens, and then there would be a next button at the bottom. So it technically wasn't infinite scroll anymore, but it showed one screen, and then as you scrolled, the second screen full of information, and then a third screen before a next button. I don't know if you ever saw their implementation of that, but what do you think of that approach where it brings in some more content, but not an infinite amount of content?
The next button. If that approach was it, okay, actually, yes, I can see the pagination in this one. If pagination is provided, then it's a good thing, because screen reader or keyboard only users can reach the content and they can go with it. And I just took this GIF because I want to show the scrollability of the thing. I couldn't find any GIF and I couldn't create that one. And if there is a next button at the bottom of the screen, and if it's not infinite scrollability, then it's not a problem. I'm completely agree with you. Did I answer your question?
I appreciate that. Yeah, it does. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for it. You've clearly done some work to gather some resources and put some information together. So I'm genuinely curious about your opinion on that. So yeah, it absolutely answers my question, because I was curious about your opinion.
Actually, if I can quote, I remember I was working on one of the client's project. This was actually, I think it's e-commerce website. And when I scroll down, it would scroll down and scroll down. There is no next button. I mean, like the product, it's in the product page. I'm in the product page. And once I scroll down, it's like scrolling infinitely. And I couldn't reach the footer at all, even for the mouse user. But there was another client page where it has load more button, even though that's a bit problematic, but still a load more is better than infinite scrolling, right? Because at least I would be able to see the footer and I would be able to navigate the footer, either a mouse user or the keyboard user. But in the first scenario, I was never able to reach the footer. So that's where it actually picked me that infinite scrolling is really problematic.
All right, I had myself on mute. Sorry for that little pause there.
No, not a problem. Sorry, I completed really fast.
I have another question, just looking really at the global aspect of Inclusive Design 24. Obviously, it's a conference with speakers from all over the world. You're based in India. Can you tell us something about what the attitude to accessibility is like for you? Is it different? I know you work for DQ, so you've got experience of American audiences too, but how do the two regions differ?
Indian market is still not there yet. I mean, our DQ people, I mean, like so many people are promoting accessibility, even the laws are being implemented, but it's still not there yet. I mean, like not even 10%. I wouldn't say not much.
Mhm.
But comparing to USA was obviously 80% of them are accessible, right? And I would say the reason being is there is no law enforcement in India, and uh, for being accessible, they are thinking that for accessibility to be included in their production or in their design, most of the people are thinking that it's a cost related work, but they don't see the value of having accessible websites on their site. We are So many people are conducting accessibility campaigns, but it would take still a lot of time to get to that point in India. I don't have any knowledge about other regions though.
Great, thanks. That's really interesting. I don't think we have any more questions for you, Anusha. So once again, thank you very much for your talk on infinite scrolling and the problems that it can cause. Just as we wrap up this session, thank you very much to our gold supporters, Intopia and Barclays Access, our silver supporters, Siteimprove and Adobe, and our bronze supporters, DQ Systems, Samsung Internet, and the Paciello Group. And thanks also to MyClearText, who are captioning all of our talks for ID24. We will be back on the hour. Time to get yourself a snack, cup of tea or coffee, and rejoin us. We will be joined by Marco Zehi, who's going to be talking to us about the built-in auditing capability inside Firefox's DevTools. So not one to miss. So come right back on the hour.
If you like this session, hit the YouTube like button. Don't forget you can subscribe to youtube.com/inclusivedesign24 for future notifications. Thank you all for attending, and we will see you on the hour. Cheers.